Hi, this is Andy with Mountain Computers. This is part 3 of the project management overview. Part 1 we did just earlier today, part 2 a little bit later, and now it's a little bit after 5, so I'm going to do part 3. I'm going to go over the first parts real fast. Project Management 101, it's scope, time, resources. Okay, and the 6 M's, man, material, methods, management, metrics. What was the fourth? What was the 6th one? I can't remember. Anyhow, you'll have to look. Man, material, methods. Man, material, methods. Well, it doesn't matter. My brain is hurting right now. So anyhow, I'm going to go over some projects real quick and talk about some things that might make sense. But I'm also going to talk to you about who you are and where you are in the organization, whether or not you're the CEO or one of those C-level positions, a VP of anything, a director, senior manager, a manager, or a supervisor, or staff. Now, in any one of these levels, I've been through them all. The average I've been at is probably director or VP. Okay, in my early years, just manager, and then if you're a business owner, you're all of it. Now, if you're in a corporate environment, you'll work with lots of people at various levels, and that's why you see in job applications and requirements, expectations, is whether or not you are a person in project management that can communicate at all levels appropriately, from stakeholders all the way to the teams, from the analysts to the non-analysts, the people, and then the technical, non-technical, the two different, the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain. So at any one of these levels, project management doesn't change, but a few things do. Does the risk change? No, because the project controls the risk. But who looks at it from what level determines it. It also has to do with sign-off authority. As you go up, signature authority for projects go up. So like a supervisor, $2,000, manager, $5,000, senior manager, $10,000, director, $25,000, or general manager for that matter. Vice president, depends on the corporation. Vice president sign-off authority for a project would be probably $250,000. Yeah, $250,000. And anything over $1 million has to definitely go to the CEO, the owner of the company, $1 million and higher. And then even then it might be a group of people. So not to be surprised, you shouldn't be surprised there. And it comes down to the project too. I wrote down a couple words: longevity, the project, the amount of risk and the exposure, and the longevity of the project. Now, if this project is going to take the company for 10 to 15 to 20 years, it'll involve just a few people to get it on the drawing board. But then it's going to require a lot of people in the beginning stages to say, is our team capable of doing this internally, or do we need to bring in outside consultants to carry us along at various stages from the beginning through the end? I know organizations that prepare themselves for sale, that prepare themselves to be outsourced, that prepare themselves to be taken over, will bring in a third-party consulting team to not only prep the management, but prep the staff and do an assessment of the organization to say, is this company, is this buyout, is this merger, what's the risk and what are the known issues, what are the unknown issues? That one pager that I talk about when it comes to any kind of project, right at the top, what are you doing? What are the risks? What are the benefits? What's the bottom dollar? What's your recommendation? What are the key milestones? How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? How many people are going to be involved? That's important. So C-level, you're looking 10, 20 years. VP, 5, 10 years. Director, 1 to 5 years. Senior manager, a year or less. Manager, 6 months or less. And a supervisor, 1 month or less. That's the horizon that each one of these people are looking at when it comes to a project as far as the organization goes. Okay? I know the first part of this video was sort of awkward and funny, but it's been a day. Okay, so let's talk about some projects that I'm going to share with you some tidbits. Starting from my very first project, if it can be called a project, elementary school, library animation project, stills. You remember you take a camera and you have these action figures like little paper cutouts. You have a story and you move the item, you take a picture, move the item, take a picture, move the item. It takes like 2 weeks to do it, and then you put all the stills together into a little animation sequence. There was 3 of us working on it, and I remember it was like 1st or 2nd grade. So that was my first project. That will not be on a passphrase for security purposes. What was the Andy's project? I'd say the biggest project at Microsoft that I was involved with was probably the Windows 95 NT launch. I can't really talk about projects in detail because of confidentiality, but I can tell you everybody knew about Windows 95, everybody knew about NT. The internals of it, really can't say much about it, other than that was an amazing project. And it was 18 months. Delayed a couple vacations on my part, didn't make my personal life very pleasurable, because I hadn't had a vacation in 2 or 3 years. Microsoft was that hectic. Let's see. Let's go back in time a little bit. 4-H projects. I was in swine, so whenever you had a pig that you were going to take to fair, that was a 6-month project. So you'd buy a pig, feed it, raise it, train it, take it to fair, sell it, keep it, do whatever, or go to state. There were 2 projects there, the pig and you, and your 4-H book. I was never good at my 4-H book. That's like technical documentation. I do good, but I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to that. There are people that do that. We hire people like that to do that. But I was also the 4-H president for a couple of years. I was very good at organizing people, managing agendas, I was a grand champion show. I won grand champion in show in my 2nd year. I won reserve grand champion in showmanship in my 1st year. And it's about the judges. Judges like you or don't. You're good with your animals or you're not. It doesn't matter in 4-H about market and showmanship. I always had okay pigs. I didn't have perfect pigs, but I had very smart pigs. And the smart pigs were usually smart because either me working with them or them liking me, or a little of both. And going to state. So 4-H, FFA, there are projects there at a young age that anybody can look at and say, that's a project. And you do it many years. I was in 4-H for, 6-9 years. I was in entomology and then some other photography, but for the most part it was swine, pigs. Then came the Army, okay? And in the Army I've got several projects I can talk about. And it's, of course, not super secret. There was Panama, Reforger, IG inspections, and annual books, and doing stuff like that. Now, I talked about auditing in books before, about one of my experiences, but my group that I was with, they were deploying to Panama. Go down there, do some satellite installations and some airports. I was in combat engineers. Supply guy, motor pool maintenance. You know what they forgot before deploying? This is no secret. It's not a secret. D batteries. Flashlight batteries? I got this call from battalion headquarters that said, you're in supply, right? Yeah. Alpha Company. They said, we need 4,000 batteries in less than 6 hours. I said, how'd you get my name? And they said, well, some guy up here, some CW4 says, if anybody can get it, you can get it. It wasn't even my group, but it didn't matter. We're all part of the same team. So I said, yeah. Well, being in combat engineering, I'm allowed to go through multiple supply sources without having to go through the standard supply chain. Plus, I had my CO commander's signature authority, so I could do stuff that normally you had to go through the paperwork chain of command. So, moral of the story was, as I said, yeah, let me make a few calls. So being the Radar O'Reilly, Sergeant Bilko I am, I called him back in an hour and I said, yeah, I'll have them ready for you. I'll call you when it's ready. So I made a few calls, had my contacts, grabbed my truck, went up, grabbed 4,000, D batteries. And by the way, that's a pallet and some change. Very heavy. Brought it back to my motor pool. I'm just a little supply guy. Motor pool supply clerk, 76 Charlie 10. So I call them, and they said, we would like that delivered. I said, are you crazy? Do you know how many hoops I just had to jump through to get this for you? And you weren't going to get it anywhere on post. So, a little secret there. But I did it legally. Just had to do a little, it wasn't horse trading. I just had to do the project. It was a project deadline. It was a task, critical path. And afterwards I was like, dang, whew, that was close. But I told them, I said, no, I don't deliver. Just come get them. 10 minutes later, I had 2 E6s showing up. And I'm a little, private PFC? I don't even think I was a specialist yet. They show up with hand trucks. And I said, no, here's my keys to my truck. Bring it back to me when you're done. So they brought it back to me an hour later, and they were thankful. Never heard anything else from them. But it was cool. That was a good project. IG inspections. Okay. So here's a project. You're going to get inspected by the IG, and it's like once every 2 or 4 years, depending on who you are and what's going on. You're going to have people that you report to that's been through IG inspections before. However, I hadn't been. So my motor officer and my motor sergeant both told me, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So we did everything that they said beforehand. Then the inspectors came in, and this was a master sergeant and some major. I can't remember their names. But they came in. And the master sergeant was the one that was most interesting when it came down to the audit. Because he knew what goes on prior to an audit. And he looked at me, looked at my books, looked at my supply room, looked at everything. And he said, okay, so now that everything looks okay, and you don't have anything really bad, how long have you been here? Less than a year? Just right out of school, quartermaster school? He said, yeah, that's pretty good for the first time. And he says, I already know what you guys did. So the question is what do you need to, what should you tell me? And what do I need to relay to them to where we don't have to do what we did before the inspection? So I didn't say anything. I said, we'll just talk to my motor officer and my motor sergeant. I'm just following orders. But that was interesting. IG inspections. When you have projects and it deals with audits, you can bend the rules, just don't break them. I follow the federal regulations. I don't break them. I might bend them a little bit, but the people and the powers that know we're trying to sort of maneuver through something. And in project management, don't ever break something. Don't ever break a policy. Don't ever break the rules, because it will come back to haunt you no matter what. You can bend them, and if you're sincere and you're following the spirit of the law, not necessarily the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, that will be okay. You'll be okay. Just remember, what you do today may come into question 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. And you pray to God it doesn't affect quality or the safety of people. And if it does, don't do it. Just stay on the straight and narrow, take the high road, okay? Very good advice for project management. Take the high road. Don't shortcut, especially when it comes to safety and lives, okay? Okay, so the audit books, that was funny. They called me to group command. Nobody at my age goes to group command to audit the books for the entire battalion in the group. I did. It was fun. That was really fun. Here's some major FUBARs that happened to me that I didn't intend to have happen. When you're in supply and you order something, and the unit of issue, the size, or each versus dozen versus box versus truckload versus pallet, if you order, say 10 each, and you get a low boy, you know what a low boy is? It's a trailer full of them. And I'm just going to say ropes, okay? I needed 10 ropes that were 100 feet long. I said 10 each. The microfiche said each. I said, yep, 10, okay? And for this item, 10 each. The price seemed right. Okay, yeah, exactly. It's like, what, $7 and some change. A week later, 40-ton lowboy shows up, 20-ton, I think, full of rope. That each wasn't each. That was like pallets. Big mistake. Wasn't my fault, but the supply chain had to put it back. Tires. 200 tires. Nobody orders 200 tires in the military at one given time without somebody's permission. you can do that. Project Management 101 says if that is what you normally do, then it's not an exception to the rule when it comes to signing authority. You should, in project management, when you are done with the project and there are certain capital items that just get annually replaced and restored and part of the maintenance, that should be handed off to the team, and it should be included to the communication of the higher ups. So if you sign up for $4 million in supplies for this CapEx project, make sure that they know that next year $4 million PO is going to come across their desk and they don't have to justify it. It's already been justified. Okay? Multimeters, digital multimeters. This is an interesting one. I ordered 9. The key punch operator in the computer entered 99999. That's 99,999. I bankrupted our entire group in one day for 99,999 multimeters. Who does that? I didn't. But there was a paper trail. So I got a call from group and said, holy shnikes, Flag just ordered $24 million in multimeters. I said, no, I didn't. I ordered 9. Have these mechanics, they need 9. So I went up to my direct support, grabbed the card, 80-column key punch card, that had my paper handwriting order, which was 9, and I looked at the card behind it, which said 99999. And I said, can I have this? And they said, as long as you bring it back. I said, sure. I didn't say anything. I just said, can I borrow this for a second? Took it up to group command. I said, there you go. There's my 9. There's their 99,999. Are we cool? They said, yeah, we're cool. So, Project Management 101. Cover your ass. Taxpayer money at work. And I hate wasting taxpayer money. Invest with taxpayer money, but don't waste. Big difference. I think we're going to stop there. How much time do I have left? Oh, it's 17 minutes. Okay. So we talked about 4-H, my first project, the Army projects. We talked about the executive levels, C-level, CEO, Chief Operating Officer. Oh, very important thing to know when you're doing projects. I have it right here. When you have more than one owner, like if you have husband and wife team that owns a business and you're working on the project, the wife agrees, husband doesn't agree, or vice versa, you're not going to win. I've always lost in those projects. I've had 2 of them. I just gave the people back their money. I was up in Winnemucca doing a project. 3 months later, all this time in, they couldn't agree. So they made me out to be the culprit, and I wasn't. I was the guy putting in all the time. They're the ones arguing with each other. So the moral of the story is, I just handed back all their money. I ate it, just so they would more or less just shut up and go away. It made me look bad a little bit. I mean, I could have said, well, per the contract, you only get half back. But, you know, good business is not about being right. It's about being fair. And, you know, the number wasn't that high. It was like $2 or $3 grand, but it was just a project. $3,000. But, yeah, I could have kept it, but I didn't. You know, it's just $3,000. It's not worth friendships, relationships, business. You know, it's just money. You can always make more. And word of mouth is key. By me doing that, my word of mouth, my value went up because I was willing to do what normally people don't do. The other thing you want to do is, if you feel that there's multiple CEOs or chief operating officers or CIOs or whatever, and I know that in Reno there's a lot of this going on. There's jockeying for positions and everybody has different motivations and agendas. But I can tell you one thing. When they're infighting and you're on a project, and it's your responsibility to get the project done per their requirements, it's best to get them all in a room in order to get agreements settled then at the meeting. Don't go to each one. Don't go to the meeting unprepared. Go to the meeting and tell them, this is what we're discussing. We need this approved. Now, if they agree to disagree or they agree to postpone, it's on them. But you get from them, we are postponing this project until you guys agree. And when you do, it's going to slip the whole project schedule. So that's important. They're the owners, they're the stakeholders. Let them own it. Okay, now if you own it, it's a little different. Okay, I already talked about being half done on a project and calling it good. I released a book, 2/3 done, 3/4 done. Release it, come back to it, pick it up, republish it. Tell people in advance though. Refunds, I already talked about refunds. Vendor to vendor. If you transition from one vendor to another, that's the client. Previous vendor, I take over, or I'm the vendor and I hand it off to another vendor. Do so ethically. Very important in project management. Hand over your paperwork and resources ethically. Don't hold back. Don't wish them well. They made a decision to change. They made a change to come to you. They made a change, and hopefully the other person who's letting you have what they did, you take over. Just recently, I took over as a vendor, and the situation was not pretty. It probably is much worse behind closed doors on the other side, but you can't do anything. All you can do is just do what the customer says, do what the client says. Be fair, because I'm not going to be with them forever either, so somebody else is going to take over for me when I'm done. So think about it like that. Rights and IP, intellectual property. Make sure that no matter what if you come up with a great idea on your own and you're working for a company, make sure they know that. At Microsoft, I had a moonlighting agreement signed by a VP, and I still have some great ideas. Never really came to anything because they were like, well, you can't be doing this if you're going to be full-time at this. UNR, I was up there working on a PhD, and they said, you can't work on your PhD while working full-time. That doesn't make sense. As a project, work is a project, my PhD is a project, I had plenty of bandwidth and capacity to do them both. They put it in my review, you can't work on your PhD while you're working at UNR full-time. That doesn't make sense. Academia is academia. They should have said, hey, congratulations, it was already a year and a half in when they found out. It wasn't affecting my work. I just wanted them to know, hey, this is a great goal, I'm working on something. Organizational leadership, PhD. No, they didn't like that, so I left. What else? Hospitals, legal, networks, retail systems, internet, cloud migrations, and technologies. That's about it. Did 21 medical systems. Those are cool projects. I want to talk about those. Legal, servers, files, networks, circuits, MPLS cutovers. Those are huge projects. Convincing somebody when to do it, how to do it, sign off and stakeholder buy-in, that's critical. It's very hard to do, especially when it comes down to saving money, but the easy part is saving the money. Getting the cutover to where it happens, that's a different issue. And then when you're done, you get to show off and say, look how much better it is now that we did it. Retail systems. Whenever you work on a system, a project, make sure that project that you use, you can use it again. What you learn there, move it forward to the next version of it. If you're on version 2, make sure your version 2 becomes version 3. Cloud migrations, that's a big one, and that'll be my last one. Just finished 7 to 9 servers migrating from here to the cloud and a couple other places, and 41 applications. That is amazing. 6 months research, 3 months testing, 6 months planning, a month cutover. Hard work, have the nerve, have the balls to do it, see the value, tell everybody in advance, give everybody advance notice. Charge some, don't charge others, because everybody has a different cost value analysis of what you're doing and why you're doing it. You already know what people have already paid in one way and what other people will pay in another way. So when it comes down to project management and getting sign-off, if it's good for everybody and you just let them know that, you end up being a winner, they end up being winners, and that's what project management is about, is planning for success. So with that, share, like, and subscribe. This is Andy from Mountain Computers. It's the end of the day. I'll post this, and I hope it doesn't look too funny or crazy. But oh, and by the way, sponsors, please sponsor me. Our videos are getting good likes. I need to take advantage of this green screen. So with that being said, have a great day. More to come. Bye-bye. Which hand is this? This one.